All right, thank you guys so much for joining us for Meet Music Knoxville. It is the show where I, your host, meet people in the music community here in Knoxville that I've never met before. But before we get started, it's really important for me to take a moment to say a very special thank you to Hutch and Howard Realty of Keller Williams. Guys, thank you. I mean, this radio station is a community hub, and it doesn't happen without you. We can't thank you enough. So thank you for your support. And without further ado, let's get started. I'm so excited to be chatting with an incredible mind. I say that from afar, from the music I've checked out from him. He's a bass player. He's a composer. Seems like a friendly guy so far. Matt Nelson. Dude, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, as I explained before, the whole premise of this show, very simple. We shoot the shit. We get to know each other. We have a good time. Some laughs, some tears, all of that.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Generally speaking, it tends to be. So, Matt, the first time I heard your name, I believe, was I was working for about 6 months at the school. I moved here last November. Oh, yeah. This show came about because I just moved to Knoxville about a year ago.
Okay.
A little over a year ago. And I was working at the School of Rock, and there was a guy who was there for about that first month who was speaking your praises, Cam Moore.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like talking up your music and the stuff that you had released, and I was like, man, I gotta connect with this guy. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that finally happened.
Yeah.
We have a ton of mutual connections on Facebook, both from Knoxville and beyond. The most obvious one in my mind, well, two of them, Thomas Helton in Houston,
mm-hmm.
I think.
I actually don't know him personally.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think that's a random Facebook kind of connection,
Yeah.
But we both know a bunch of the same people.
Well, and, I've only checked out a handful of things from you, but it seems like you guys are of a similar ilk in your approach to bass playing.
Sure.
And then a guy I'm not super familiar with, but I also is into extended technique on the bass. I think his name is James Ingenfritz.
Oh, yeah, into the same kind of thing.
You're right, yeah.
Same kind of thing.
Yeah,
so don't know these people personally, yeah.
Well, when you're into the, as I call it, the pots and pans jazz, it's like you gotta take these friends where you can get them, because it can be kind of a niche community. Now, did you play, because I noticed there were a lot of Baltimore connections, did you play the Red Room?
No, I've heard of that place, though.
Yeah.
When I played in Baltimore, I played at some tea shop. I can't remember what it was called. But it was with this guy named Derek Michaels.
Derek Michaels.
Yeah.
Played in my first large ensemble show in Baltimore.
Oh,
well,
cool.
my only large ensemble show.
Okay.
I love that dude.
Yeah, he's a super sweet guy.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, he's great.
Great player.
So, do you remember who else was in that band?
Well, so he was playing with this group. I cannot remember the names off the top of my head. But I'm pretty sure it was like him on saxophone, an upright bass player, a cellist, and a bass clarinet player. And it was really beautiful. I remember him telling me the idea behind the band was kind of being this lush kind of melodic kind of sound, compared to maybe his other things were maybe more kind of edgy and dissonant and things like that. But it was a really beautiful set. It kind of sounded like, really pretty improvised, like chamber music or something like that. It was really cool.
It's great.
So
my guess is that the bass player that he would play with a lot moved to New York and ended up being the bass player that I played with a lot. Okay. So it'd be funny with a guy named Zach Swanson.
Oh, I don't think it was him.
Yeah,
because I've heard about that guy a lot too.
Oh, cool.
I don't think I've met him yet. So
yeah, rad dude.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I don't want to dive too much down that rabbit hole because there are tons of people that I feel like we could just have conversations about. I want to know about you, man. What? So you said you're from Indiana, but you've lived here.
Yes.
Effectively.
Yeah, since I was like 13. So, and I'm about to turn 30. So.
Oh, cool.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Man, and bass always been your instrument?
Yeah. Played some piano when I was a kid, kind of like a lot of people. But when I was 14, I started playing electric bass.
Yeah.
Fell in love with it. So
I'm checking to make sure that I have sound coming through this microphone, and I do. Sorry about that.
Okay, no.
The joys of home recording. Right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and you sing as well on your stuff, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And
just on one song, but
oh really?
The
one that you happen to sing?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's cool, man.
I'm proud of that song, though. Yeah, that kind of just came out of nowhere and just went with it. So.
Seemed like one of those. I love. I think it's by nature the fact that there were the basses and sax, like it had an ornette kind of quality to it.
Sure.
I love All My Life, how it has that meandering but just very heartfelt and intentional kind of melodic and lyric content.
Yeah, and I think like indirectly that was definitely an influence on that. I mean, ornette is one of my biggest influences. Dude, for sure.
So
and
good.
kind of the idea for that group came from like during COVID, I got really, really into the ornette primetime band.
Yeah,
and where I didn't really, I had known about ornette since I was really young. And always liked him, but when I would turn on that band, I was like, I don't get this. This is horrible. Like the one video you pull up on YouTube is like Ornette Primetime Band playing that song "Dancing in Your Head."
Yeah,
and it's like this is like really fucking annoying, But the more just for some reason I started getting into that during COVID, and it's just like it's infectious, man.
Yeah,
there's so much of it too. It's so good, and like with the 2 bass players, 2 guitar players, like. Just I was really obsessed with that idea. So
was that? I think I met the guy who Brandon Coleman, was he the bass player who was on, or one of the bass players on that? I'm trying to remember.
Maybe I don't know. I don't know if I know.
I don't know the band well enough. I remember I had the one that had "Dance in Your Head" on it because Jerry Garcia plays on that one too, right?
He plays on a later one. The what's that album called?
I can't remember.
It's the.
I can see the album cover. It's like
I have that CD in my car. Yeah. I can't remember what it was called.
What was the one that was like Telephone Time or something like that?
Oh, that was like a later one, like from the early '90s. Tone dialing. Yeah.
Yeah, they do that like off the wall Bach thing.
Yeah.
On that.
Yeah. It's so weird. Yeah.
And it's funny too. It's I think the funniest thing about that is it's kind of like for a classical musician playing Freebird, right?
Sure,
I think it's the Ave Maria, right? The Gounod one or whatever the Bach.
Oh, it's the first cello suite.
Yeah. That the Gounod over the top. But it's funny. It's almost like if you're a classical musician, it's like the most. It's I don't know. There's some comparison to.
It's probably like sacrilegious if a classical musician were to listen to that.
Yeah. But that's the ornette thing, man.
Yeah,
like all sacrilegious in that way.
Well, yeah, and he just a big part of the primetime band was the whole harmonics idea, and kind of not discriminating any sounds, like one of the quotes he has is like removing the caste system from music, and music does not have a face. Like no sounds, or sound does not have a face, rather. Like no sounds like belong to anyone. Like you can use any sound that you want to make anything that you want out of it. And Primetime Band is such a good example of that because, Ornette comes from this like really traditional kind of jazz setup. And it was like, I like all this new like electronic stuff in the 70s and 80s and stuff, and I want to incorporate that. It's like this isn't like worse or better than any of the other sounds that I could use. Why not just kind of incorporate anything that I'm into at any given time into something, which I think is beautiful.
So much about Ornette is beautiful. it's as you were saying that, I was also realizing, well, shit, I want to know more about you. So I feel like this often happens in these, but I do want to get through that, especially because there may be people who are listening that don't know your music and your story.
Oh, I'm sure.
So so you've been here. You studied at UT.
I did, yes.
Studied at UT. Mm-hmm. Upright.
Yeah. I started playing upright when I started at UT. Yeah.
Got it. Mm-hmm. Cool. And you're familiar with harmony and all of that stuff. Was predated that. You were a jazz guy that just happened to do electric bass.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I was really interested in like fusion jazz really early on. Like, was really into like Herbie Hancock and the Headhunters and stuff. Like that was one of the first big bands I was really into. So I was obsessed with that stuff and was trying to learn more about playing music like that. And then when I was 16, just like I guess 2 years into playing bass, a friend of mine hooked me up with Rusty Holloway, who was the professor at that time at UT. So I took lessons from him 2 years leading up to college, and he kind of got me ready for, that environment and really helped me like prepare for the audition and all that stuff. And I was always interested in playing upright, so I like took orchestra my last semester of high school, and like carried that bass around with me everywhere and was just trying to figure it out. But like really started diving in to learn upright when I started as a freshman in college. Like that's all I did. I pretty much put the electric bass aside for several years and would just bring it out every once in a while for gigs or like a random, just like random things. But it was like, I really wanted to learn upright. And so like dove into the classical side of it as well as jazz. And I played like a lot of bluegrass and folk and stuff in gigs and stuff too. Just as much experience as I could on it.
Right.
So
your 1 and 5 were super solid, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Your open strings, you're just nailing it. And you got a ton of work of that stuff around here too. I mean, that's like.
Oh yeah, I mean this is like the home of that shit.
Yeah.
For sure, man. Yeah.
Okay, so, when did this because I guess I've heard stuff where you were on upright, prepared upright. Mm-hmm. But are you still mostly an electric player these days, or are you really both, or how do you identify?
Well, I kind of was until recently, like with COVID, like, I was just kind of getting into a lot of new things and, I wasn't really playing with anyone. When I was playing with people, I was only playing electric bass. And it kind of like, and I got this new bass too that was like really nice and really.
The headless one in your pictures?
Yeah. And just like, it was like the playability of it and the sound of it, it was just like so many things I couldn't do before. I like just came out so much better. And I felt like the things I was hearing in my head were starting to like work better. And I just kind of had this realization of like electric bass was my first love, and it's like I feel at that time I was like I really feel like this is my sound and my voice. So for like probably 8 months I didn't touch my upright, and I was just like writing music for that band with the electric bass and just playing electric bass. But about a month ago someone reached out to me about playing a show out of town and he specifically wanted upright. And that's like exactly what I needed someone to say for me to like get back into it, It's not like I was like pissed about playing upright or like sick of it. It was just I just felt like I needed to go with my gut and it felt like right, like that was the sound. And it still is the sound. Like that band is like with those guys, like that is the sound I need for that band that's in my head. But other things like and nowadays I'm really only using upright for improvised, like purely free improvised music and stuff. So that's kind of, I'm getting excited about that again. So the last month or so.
Because this is a good transition. Mm-hmm. You host, is it Mondays at the Pilot Light?
Yeah, every Monday.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is that like largely free improvised, or it's all improv based kind of stuff? Or
yeah, I mean it's It can be a lot of different things for sure. I mean, I've played with my band that plays really melodic. There, the one where I'm playing electric bass in, and like a lot of that stuff is really like I think is really pretty and beautiful and melodic. But I also play with other people. Like the set I played on Monday was with a couple guys from Atlanta, Ben Shirley on cello and Majid Arame on mandolin, and that music is way more exploratory and extended techniques, like you're saying, and less like tonal in a conventional sense.
Yeah.
But there's some bands that come in there and they play, stuff that's really beautiful. Some people play stuff that's really dissonant. Some people do like spoken word that's improvised. It's kind of, if someone has like a solid idea, or I'm aware of their music and it's, it's not. I don't really discriminate too much with it.
Yeah.
But it's mostly like different forms of improvised music.
Yeah.
I kind of have to say it loosely because it feel like it's so different every time.
Yeah.
So
that's good. I mean, that appeals to the fact that it's like everyone has their own sensibilities, and so giving them space to do that is great. And so, yeah, man, I want to take a minute and hop back to sort of how you loosely mentioned bluegrass music. You said the Headhunters were your this is so resonant. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're like improvising over jazz. Were a big influence for you. What was like the first music that you listened to that you like that it clicked for you? Like at like what was the first CD that you got that was like your CD? You're 30, I'm 32, so we were both in like CD turf with like the with
I'm
the
still in
Walkman.
CD turf. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't
good
have
to
a
know.
Walkman anymore.
So I just had CDs come in the mail today from disc makers. So
nice.
we're holding it down.
Yeah.
Anyway, like what was the first? What was the earliest music that you can remember identifying with?
I mean, I feel like I was exposed to a lot of music when I was younger, and I always loved it. I mean,
are your parents musicians or like music?
Sort of. I mean, my father plays some guitar. My mother, I think that she played music when she was younger, but they both don't really play music anymore, and didn't really when I was a kid. My dad would play guitar sometimes, but I mean, my mom showed me a lot of stuff like Earth, Wind, and Fire when I was younger, and she loved like Lionel Richie and stuff like that, and I still love that stuff. And they both showed me like Simon and Garfunkel, and which I still love. I went and saw Paul Simon with my dad a couple years ago. But I mean, the first albums that I like bought and like really like listened to over and over with and was obsessed with was probably that first Headhunters record and Miles Davis' Bitches Brew.
Oh yeah.
Those were probably like, from what I can remember, those were like the first two that I was like obsessed with, and was like, starting to play bass and was like, oh, okay, like this shit's amazing. I want to figure out how to do this, and start on this long road of figuring out how to make something that makes me feel like this.
Yeah. What I really like about those examples that you gave that your parents had is that they're all, especially once you get into Paul Simon's music, it's a lot of very like groove heavy stuff, which is an interesting thing that to set up the Headhunters.
Sure.
Oh, and Bitches, it's all of it, like
well, and I'd say too, like, I kind of left out too that, the reason I got an electric bass in the first place was I saw that movie, The Blues Brothers, for the first time. and I was obsessed with that movie, just kind of every aspect of it, especially the bass player, like Donald Duck Dunn, like standing in the back, like smoking a pipe and like playing a P bass and saying a stupid joke every once in a while. It's like, that's the motherfucker
me.
that
that's
I
what I'm
going
gonna
to
do.
Yeah, man. So I mean, so that kind of like opened this door to like soul music and stuff, you know, and the Headhunters and some of that fusion stuff came not long after, you know. So
yeah. No. And actually that connects to sort of going back to the Ornette thing. Mm-hmm. This idea of it's funny that it took you this long to get into prime time in that way, because I feel like it's so similar to the Miles thing in that mm-hmm. period. Mm-hmm. You know, certainly philosophically.
Yeah.
You know, mm-hmm. But Ornette just had such a weird way of putting those pieces together that it feels like it's from another planet. I guess.
Yeah, definitely. It's like aliens picked up a radio station of like a funk station and then like listened to it for like 5 minutes and then went home and like tried to make it themselves or something, you know.
You know, I'm pretty sure that they're looking for writers on what the hell is that? Jazz. Why is this happening to me? What's the one where Nate Chinen writes?
Who?
Nate Chinen, the like writer. I can't remember. Or I probably fucking pronounced his name wrong. So let me just give you, as we continue this conversation. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Central Pennsylvania, rock and roll kind of kid. Mm-hmm. Went to college, studied with opera studies, and also with a free jazz drummer and a composer. And so that's sort of what comprised. And then I got out of school, and I realized I really wanted to be a songwriter. Mm-hmm. And so that's basically what I do, but I just still have all of this other shit in my head. Yeah. Which is I don't know, like I really appreciate the freedom of the free jazz stuff. It just like totally like, I don't know, nothing's off of the table mm-hmm. when you do that. Mm-hmm. Do you find are there any other like prevalent influences in your writing or your music that you go to? Like has your bluegrass, you know, 15151 tainted? Has it like, you know?
No, yeah. I mean I think I can't help but be influenced by bluegrass and music from this region. Because of my experience playing it, but also just like being a person that lives here. I mean, I think that is, I mean, people have in the past, like when I have traveled, like especially in the Northeast to play improvised music, I think people are fascinated by me being from the South, you know, being from a red state or whatever. So I don't know if that bias is why people say this, but people do say that they hear like an Appalachian influence in what I do. I don't really see how like tangibly that happens necessarily, but I mean, I think there are a lot of things that come out of my playing that I have no control over, just like anyone else, you know. We're all a part of the history of music, and everything we've heard before is going to influence what we're doing, whether mm-hmm. it's conscious or not. But anyway,
so nothing specific that is like, I mean, yes, everything, but not like, you don't have your, okay. Like,
well, I'd say
reggaeton phase or anything.
No, not reggaeton, no. But I will say, like, after I was when I started playing free improv music, I was really influenced by like especially European free improv stuff.
Like
I mean,
who?
Like Peter Brotzman, the saxophone player, and like Peter Kowald. Peter Kowald like kind of opened a door for me because he was the first guy I ever saw like playing solo upright bass and it being kind of this like beautiful expression that like made sense, you know. It wasn't just a guy playing a song on an upright bass. It was like this thing that transcended being an instrumentalist, and that kind of like set a light bulb off in my head for sure. That whole scene of those guys, like those guys are from Germany, but like people like Derek Bailey, the guitarist from England, and Evan Parker.
Yeah. Are you oh man, what the hell? This is gonna happen the whole time. table that. Keep going. Evan Parker from England.
Yeah. Evan Parker. But, I mean, American stuff, too. I mean, I think what really started me on the journey was listening to Albert Ayler for the first time.
Oh, my gosh.
I heard that stuff when I was, like, 18. And, like, Bitches Brew, at that time, Bitches Brew was the weirdest thing I'd ever heard.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about weirdest, but most, out there and kind of experimental thing I'd ever heard. But, yeah, Albert Ayler, like... that really changed my life. Like I got that the his most famous record, I guess, the Spiritual Unity.
Yeah,
I got that, and that just like blew my mind.
Yeah.
But
he was on Ascension, right? Am I?
No, he wasn't on.
He
Ascension.
wasn't on Ascension.
No.
What is his? He has some weird connection to Ascension, doesn't he? Like, did they redo Ascension and he led?
I don't think so. I mean, Coltrane did. I think Coltrane said that Albert Ayler was his favorite saxophone player of all time, and I think they played some gigs together and stuff.
Yeah,
and like he played at John Coltrane's funeral.
Yeah,
and stuff. So they definitely had like a close personal relationship. Yeah. But I don't think there's any recordings of them together that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I remember there was my thesis was actually on Coltrane.
Oh, cool!
And it was like and I say thesis. I should add an asterisk on there. Because I've never let anyone read it, because it's like about as shoddy of scholarship as exists in the world.
Yeah, you don't want to read my papers from college.
Yeah, yeah. What a cluster. But yeah, I thought there was some connection there, and I also might be making it up because it's like, I have all of that, all of those Impulse recordings. And I labored over them, and then I just was like, all right, I'm done with Coltrane for like a decade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
I still go back to, obviously I love Supreme, and I go back to the Hartman record because I just love that.
Oh, yeah.
That's just like, and as a vocalist, it's like.
Yeah, that's a beautiful record. Yeah.
But, and speaking of vocalists, dude, are you a Scott Walker fan?
I don't know who Scott Walker is, I don't think.
You're going to love it.
Okay.
Evan Parker played on a lot of Scott Walker's stuff, and the Walker brothers, they were a trio that were from, Scott is definitely from the States, but moved to England. But they were this, like that sort of like the tail end of that like cheesy 60s pop kind of thing, but like that, but demented.
Okay.
In a like just really gorgeous stuff.
Okay.
It's worth checking out.
Yeah. Okay.
And really interesting. He did a bunch of stuff. Like, I think I first found him when a band. Oh, here we go. How do you know the dude Tom Weeks, saxophone player?
So, I also haven't met him personally, but I do know him a little more directly. There's this drummer named Leo Suarez that lives in Philadelphia.
Okay.
He's an amazing drummer, has a really unique approach. I haven't really heard anyone do anything like he does. But he has this great group called Toned, and it's a trio with Tom Weeks, who I think lives in Oakland.
He lives in Oakland now, yeah.
And on alto sax, and then Nathan Corder. And I think he plays lots of different instruments. I think he lives in Seattle, maybe, or maybe he lives in Oakland too. I'm not sure. But Leo, the drummer, is the only one I met. And Tom Weeks, I think, or Nathan Corder, I think, plays electronics in that group. But that's an awesome group, Toned. You should check them out.
Dude, I wonder, the last time I saw Tom right before the pandemic, and I wonder, I can't remember what configuration I saw him in, but it'd be funny if that's how I saw him.
Yeah.
But Tom and I used to be in a band called Mob Job, which was John. The only way to describe it's like it just feels sort of like John Zorn, like straight down the fucking pipe. Cool. In terms of like when we think of, he does a lot of different stuff, but one of the guys, Sam Harmit, was really into like klezmer music, so it's brought that klezmer influence, but also everyone had a foot in rock and everyone had a foot in jazz and a foot in all these kind of John Zorny kind of things. So it came out like that. But
cool.
They did beautiful compositions in that band.
Yeah. That Mob Job sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah,
I think I've heard of that.
I'll send you that record. Yeah, after all is said and done. We did. Yeah. I only recorded one track with them because it was sort of splintering off and going in different directions by the time I got involved with them. But can't remember where we were going with that. I feel like that was supposed to springboard into something else. That's how these conversations go, though. Yeah, man. Okay, so who? Obviously, we're a composite of all of these influences that we have. But if you were to say, who are, let's say, 3 bassists, so specific to the bass, and then let's say 3 sort of composers that are your respective pantheon that you feel like you identify with the most and for whatever way, or that are important to you. I'm just curious. If you were to pick your 3,
okay,
gun to your head. Folks at home, I have a gun. I have a gun.
I'm horrible at these questions, man.
I don't know, just
3
whatever.
Bases. I mean,
I don't know.
I'm horrible at these questions.
Yeah, but do you ever find when you're improvising, like you're like, go back to like a person or a time or a place, and you're just sort of like, oh, this is sort of like so and so, or maybe you don't get that way. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I have been that way in the past. I mean, and I think when I'm playing more straight ahead types of music, that is a thing for me. But with improvising, and I'm not going to say that never happens when I'm improvising, but I've really consciously been trying to not do that, to not think that way, and to not just to not really have any kind of plan about what's going to happen. There's been a lot of trial and error for me in the process of learning how to play music like this. And I used to go into sets with like a really clear cut idea of what I wanted to do, and I would like practice it. And it never came out the way that I would that I wanted it to. I would like book recording sessions with this great idea, and I'd go in there and spend like 4 hours recording it, and then I would go home and listen. And it was like none of this is usable, But I like the more that I've like appreciated the process of just totally being in that moment, and like there's so many things that can influence you just like on the way to your gig and like the conversations that you have. And I want like everything that's influenced me up to that point to like be there, but I'm not going to know what elements to use until I'm there doing it.
Yeah.
It really feels like kind of the most zen thing that I could do. I mean, I really feel like every time that I play, especially like solo, I come out of it just like feeling like, no time has passed at all, or all the time is in the world has passed, like it. And I feel like the music, when I like surrender myself to that, like the music like tells me what to do, and like the instrument like tells me what to do next. Like I'll start the set and take a leap of faith and play a note. Maybe I'll have in mind like what the first sound I want to make is. And I'll make that sound, and then depending on how that goes, that'll inform what my next decision is. And so it just kind of is this domino thing, and over time this music like evolves into this thing, But when I start consciously thinking about what I'm doing, I get like way too in my head, and I start thinking I'm making mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though no one else like probably knows that I'm making a mistake, but
you're scratching the bow off of the head of that bass wrong. Clearly, he's not getting the tone that he intended.
But for my own critiques in my own head, I mean, it's really easy for me to be critical of myself, and I don't feel like those feelings have any place in that kind of music for me.
Certainly
For me.
I mean, I think at the heart of jazz, jazz is sort of what we think of as maybe this historic formalization of improvisation, right? That's what it is. It's like making those mistakes are woven in, quote unquote mistakes, air quotes, folks at home, air quotes, it's like they end up being woven. They're as much part of the composition as the intended, And I don't want to lose this one because this is something I've thought of multiple times here. Do you know of the band? You mentioned the term leap of faith. There's a great record called Leaps of Faith by this trumpeter named Quang Vu.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know that record?
I am only familiar with a few things by him. Yeah.
That was, if I was to say of the 5 concerts that changed my life, that was one of them. And the configuration is very similar to your band. Yeah, drums. It was Ted Poor playing drums. Another bass player that I can't remember his name because his job was literally to be the roots guy. And then Stomu, do you know what I'm talking about? Takashi, is that his name?
Oh yeah, the fretless bass player. Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah,
killing it. You know, and then Quang Vu had pedals and stuff, and it was breathtaking.
Yeah. He's amazing, man. Yeah, he is amazing. That bass, I love that bass player too. I can never remember his name myself. Yeah. But his stuff, if you ever listen to Henry Threadgill, his group Zoid is one of my favorite groups ever. I saw them live it was at Big Ears a few years ago. So amazing.
Do you know that Henry Threadgill, that when the pandemic hit, Henry Threadgill assembled a team of people to determine where the best place to move New York City's improvisers was and rated all of these cities around the country. Guess where number 1 was?
Was it here?
Knoxville.
Wow.
Knoxville, Tennessee. He said it's if they were to pick up and start a commune, this is where they were going to go.
Yeah, bring it on. Yeah, I'm all for that.
Well, yes. I mean, as much as I'd love the art heads around here, I also don't want to pay more rent, so... But maybe that's the thing. Maybe Henry Threadgill's music would scare off some of the gentrifiers.
Yeah, I don't know. That'd be nice, but
yeah. He says living in South Knoxville. Well, that's me living in South Knoxville. But yeah, man. Yeah. Shoot. Let me just check time. Oh, we're good. We got a couple more minutes left. Yeah, so I like to ask this of my guests that I have in here. What do you want to do? It's we're coming out of COVID, or are out of COVID, but not really out of COVID. It's been a time of resetting for a lot of people. How has that been for you? Obviously, you spent a lot of time at home thinking about going back to the electric. That was a big thing. But is this leading to anything for you, projects, or do you have any, obviously musically you're living in the moment. And in life, my guess is you're probably living in the moment a lot too, as someone who seems very philosophically connected musically and, in the greater way you lead your life. But I don't know, are there things that you're looking to do or projects you want to start, or is there anything in your brain that's man, I just really want to do this thing? I'd say two tangible things that are going to happen that I'm excited about are, so there's this group called Two-Way Street. It's Adam Lyon and Ashley Booth. They used to live here in Knoxville, but they betrayed me and moved to Asheville for some reason. I still don't know why. But Adam's a amazing percussionist, and Ashley's a cellist. And then there's this other group called Whispers of Night, which is the 2 guys that I mentioned earlier that I played with on Monday. Majida Rame on mandolin and Ben Shirley on cello. In February, we are making a record as all of us collective
together.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome.
So Two-Way Street. 2
cellos.
Yeah, 2 cellos.
2 cellos.
Yeah.
Stereo cello.
Yeah. It's going to be great. And both of those groups have such unique approaches that are totally different. But we've all played, I know that most of us have all played together in a unit at least a few times. Just at shows. A lot of the shows I play that are improv, we jam at the end with everybody that's there. I think that's a beautiful way to end one of those shows. We do that almost every time with the Pilot. But anyway, So that configuration is going to record for 2 days in February.
Do you mind if I ask, where do you record around here? Like, is it here in Knoxville, or are you guys headed someplace
We
else?
are going to do it in Atlanta this time. In Knoxville, there are a few places. I made several records at a place that isn't there anymore. This guy named Scott Miner.
With the Neve console that got shipped to Brazil? Is that the same guy? I've been hearing about this guy who had a Neve console that was like...
I don't know if he had a Neve console. He moved to Greece.
Oh, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, this is the same guy.
Yeah.
Apparently his console was a Neve, and everyone just like gushes over the Neve, you know? And then he sold it to someone in Brazil or something. I don't know.
He had this giant fucking plate reverb that was like from the 50s that sounded amazing.
Oh, my gosh.
But he was like my guy. Like, I could call him the day before and he would like let me come in and record whatever I wanted to do. It was just like so supportive. So I made several records there, but nowadays it just depends on what kind of project I'm doing. Like the 2 records I made with my more like straight ahead band, one I did here in town with my friend Jake Smith, who just has a studio set up in his house. Another one I went to Nashville. My brother-in-law has a studio, so set up out there that's like in his house, you know. So kind of those situations a lot. I just don't have like a super big budget ever.
Yeah.
So.
Really?
Yeah.
You're not selling out your shows for extended technique bass solos?
So that's one thing I'm really excited about coming up. Also, that trio that played Monday, we're going to be doing like my first tour in several years in April.
Cool.
So
where are you hitting? What spots?
The plan is to go Columbus, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Baltimore, DC, and then probably bookend the whole thing with Atlanta and Knoxville, where both of us are from.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I haven't toured like that since like early 2019, so
yeah,
I'm excited about that prospect. So
that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I've learned so much doing those tours, and I just like come back refreshed, you know, and those are beautiful guys to hang with and make music with, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
So
you guys should record at the end of it. That's like
yeah.
You guys will be nice and like have a vibe.
Yeah, I love doing that. I've done that on a lot of tours like that. Like my first tour ever, I played just solo, and I learned so much on that. Like a month later, I made my first record ever, yeah, it's inspiring, and to, you know, when I'm playing here, like, it can be easy like to just play for the same people all the time, and people, you know, I mean, I'm not saying this because I'm pissed about it or anything, or it's just a part of life. People take you for granted and take what you do for granted. Just like I take other people in town that, you know, I don't go to every show in town, you know, because like, oh, well, they're doing their thing and that's great. And I love that. But if I win, I'd probably fucking love it, you know. But just having like these ideas that you've been working on for so long and people are familiar with them, but getting to go out and try those ideas in a different way for new people, and it's the first time they've ever heard you, you know. I mean, these are all kind of obvious things, but it's really powerful and a really productive thing for me to do for the art that I'm making.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This has been great. Well, let's do this. Let's wrap up. I want the world to know you have a Bandcamp.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the best place to find your music and support you?
Yeah. I mean, that's the way you can support me directly. I don't have all of my records on Spotify and all that stuff. I mean, my more straight ahead stuff is on there, just for accessibility, you know. But if you wanted to support financially what I'm doing, go to my Bandcamp. It's just mattnelsonbass.bandcamp.com. And there's some stuff on YouTube stuff. Like there's a lot of live sets on YouTube that wouldn't be on my Bandcamp page. So, I mean, there's other guys named Matt Nelson that play free jazz too and free improv music.
Sons of bitches. Sons of bitches.
So if it says saxophone or piano or that I'm like based in Chicago. That's not me, but Matt
But
Nelson
definitely Matt Nelson bass.
I'm the only bass player named Matt Nelson that I'm aware of. So.
Well, cool. Man, it was so great to chat with you. This
Likewise.
has been such a blast. And that's it for our show today. Thank you, Matt, so much for being here. And a reminder that we are on every last Friday of the month, so make sure you check it out. Folks, everyone have a wonderful evening and a great rest of your weekend. Thanks.